Have you ever noticed how, the most dangerous place in the world isn't a war zone or some deep-sea submarine? It is a brightly lit room full of creative people who have been given scissors, sleep deprivation, and immunity from consequences.
Oh, absolutely. The psychology of reality television is truly a dark art.
It is. But before we get into the absolute mayhem that was on our screens this week, babes, welcome back. We love you. We see you. And we've got peach bellinis on deck because tonight is giving Fashion Week energy with a side of family group chat dysfunction.
I am already taking a deeply restorative sip of this Bellini, honestly, because my central nervous system is entirely compromised right now.
I mean, same.
The sheer volume of chaos we have to work through today requires a fortified beverage. We are recapping a television event that completely blurred the line between avant-garde artistry and, a hostile workplace environment.
It was a fever dream covered in hot glue and packing tape.
Yeah.
And frankly, watching these designers completely unravel under the pressure of a ticking clock made me violently grateful for our actual real-life jobs.
Right.
But it also, it sent me into this existential spiral about those jobs. Because we spend all day, every day in our respective dental clinics.
We do. We are healthcare professionals.
Our dentists. We literally stare into the darkest, wettest, most claustrophobic recesses of the human body for a living.
It is not glamorous.
No, but secretly, in the deepest corners of my soul, I am completely delusional about what my alternate reality career should be.
Oh, the fantasy alternate life. I am entirely ready for this. Give me the delusion. If you were forced to hand over your dental license today and completely restart, what is the job?
Okay, I want a job that is ridiculously, unapologetically glamorous, but requires absolutely zero manual labor.
So the exact opposite of dentistry.
Exactly. And zero emotional regulation. I want to be the person who names luxury paint colors for sprawling estates in the Hamptons.
Oh my God.
Right. Just looking at a swatch of off-white and declaring, we shall call this divorcee winter, and then going to lunch for 3 hours.
That is incredibly specific.
Or wait, I want to be a bespoke fragrance consultant for super yachts. My entire job description would be walking onto a teak deck in Monaco, sniffing the Mediterranean sea breeze, turning to a billionaire and whispering, the primary suite needs more out, and then they just hand me a check for $50,000.
I mean, the grift is immaculate. I respect it.
But watching this episode made me wonder, do you think we could actually survive working in the real cutthroat fashion industry?
See, it is entirely fascinating to me that you don't realize you are already perfectly trained for the reality TV fashion industry.
Wait, what? How?
If you break it down analytically, the Venn diagram between high-stakes dentistry and high-stakes couture is practically a circle.
You are losing me.
Think about it. We work with incredibly sharp, highly dangerous tools. Scalpels, high-speed drills, explorers that can puncture skin in a millisecond.
Okay, that is true.
We operate in a tiny, restricted, poorly lit space where a millimeter of error means absolute disaster.
Wow, okay, when you put it like that.
And most importantly, we do all of this while managing the erratic, volatile emotions of incredibly nervous people who actively resent that we are even in the room with them.
Wait, my mind is completely blown right now. Trying to hit a margin on a second molar while a patient is thrashing around in the chair and complaining about the suction, that is quite literally the exact same skill set as trying to hem a couture organza gown on a towering model while she's complaining about her footwear 5 minutes before the runway lights go down.
Precisely. You have to tune out the complaining, you have to focus on the structural integrity of the material in front of you, and perform a highly technical task on a strict deadline.
I never felt more seen.
We are simultaneously massively overqualified for the fashion world because of our manual dexterity and fine motor skills, but we are also completely underqualified because we expect things to actually, remain structurally sound long after the patient or the model leaves the room. In fashion, it only has to hold together for a 3-minute runway walk. In dentistry, if your work falls apart in 3 minutes, you are facing a malpractice suit.
So what you're saying is, if we were thrust into a fashion design workroom, we would accidentally end up as the villains of the reality show anyway?
Oh, 100%.
Just hyperventilating in the corner, intensely hot gluing a porcelain veneer to a piece of tulle, aggressively demanding a sterile field while the rest of the cast throws fabric at each other.
We would demand an entirely unreasonable standard of workplace safety, which makes for terrible television.
He really does.
But speaking of workplace dynamics and terrible environments, watching the toxic flow of information in this episode's workroom immediately made me think of the information broker in my own clinic.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because every single workplace on Earth has one, but ours is exceptional. This coworker operates as if they are a credentialed, salaried, embedded correspondent for TMZ.
The office espionage agent. It is a universally recognized archetype. They possess a level of clearance that defies all corporate hierarchy.
It genuinely defies the laws of physics and time. Like, our management team will be in a closed-door, soundproof executive suite, having a highly confidential, hushed conversation about completely restructuring the vacation rollover policy.
Right, totally top secret.
Before the CEO has even hit print on the official memo, this coworker is already standing by the break room microwave, whispering the exact granular details to the receptionist over a lukewarm cup of coffee.
How do they do it? Do they read lips through frosted glass? Have they bugged the ceiling tiles? I need to know the funniest, most unhinged rumor this person has ever confidently delivered to you.
Oh, without hesitation, it was the time they managed to convince half the clinical staff that our lead dental hygienist was secretly moonlighting as a backup dancer for Pitbull on his weekend stadium tours.
No, I am screaming, Pitbull!
And it wasn't just a passing comment. The sheer volume of supporting detail they provided was staggering. They fabricated tour dates, non-disclosure agreements, grueling rehearsal schedules, and custom rhinestone costume fittings.
Was any part of it based in reality? Like, did the hygienist even take a Zumba class?
None of it. She spent her weekends at a farmer's market in the suburbs. But the conviction with which this TMZ coworker delivered the lie.
That is terrifying.
It is exactly like watching a reality TV producer plan a microscopic seed of drama in a contestant's ear just to sit back and watch the entire cast spiral into paranoia.
It really is a psychological sickness.
Yeah.
Babes, if TMZ ever needs another correspondent, the dental office already has one.
They absolutely do.
And frankly, this leads me perfectly into a piece of unverified, deeply offensive propaganda that you keep trying to push in our own personal lives.
Here we go.
Which is your insistence that automated plug-in air fresheners are somehow superior to candles. I need you to explain this delusion to me right now.
It is not a delusion. It is a commitment to baseline olfactory excellence. I will aggressively defend my stance right here and now. The automated plug-in scent diffuser is the absolute pinnacle of home fragrance technology, and candles are an antiquated hazard.
I am physically recoiling. The disrespect to the ambiance of a flickering flame? I reject this with every fiber of my being.
You're being dramatic.
Candles are the only acceptable method of creating a cozy, curated vibe in a home. A high-quality candle gives you a sensory experience. It gives you luminescence. It gives you a ritual. It gives you romance.
It gives you soot on your ceiling.
Try again. A plug-in smells like an aggressive chemical warfare attack on my sinuses. It smells like the public restroom of a luxury shopping mall that is desperately trying to mask the scent of floor cleaner with artificial vanilla.
And this right here is why you live a life of unnecessary labor. Let's look at the actual science of scent fatigue and efficiency.
I do not want to look at the science.
A candle is fundamentally inefficient. You have to buy it. You have to remember to trim the wick to a 1/4 inch to prevent tunneling. You have to actively monitor the open flame so you don't inadvertently burn your house down and then it dies. It is a depreciating asset.
It's called ambiance.
A plug-in provides a sustained scent throw. It is reliable. It works continuously, diffusing a perfectly calibrated aroma while you are sleeping, while you are at work, while you are living your life. You walk into your home, and the baseline scent is already managed.
It is managing my baseline toward a massive migraine. You are arguing for automated synthetic efficiency, and I am arguing for the romantic, labor-intensive aesthetic of real fragrance oils burning in natural wax.
We are just fundamentally different people.
We are, and ironically, this exact deeply entrenched personality difference completely derailed my family group chat this week.
The dreaded family group chat, the graveyard of nuance. How did you manage to weaponize home fragrance?
Well, I foolishly thought I could source some backup from my own bloodline.
Rookie mistake.
I organically dropped our scent war into the family text thread. Just a playful, lighthearted poll asking, Team Candle or Team Plug-in? I was looking for a little validation.
Yeah.
And it immediately escalated into absolute generational warfare.
The primary rule of the family group chat is that tone does not exist, and every statement will be interpreted as a personal attack. Who was the first to fundamentally misunderstand the assignment?
Exactly. There is always one relative who lacks all digital literacy regarding tone. My uncle reads a playful debate about cozy vibes and responds with a deeply serious, capitalized, 5-paragraph thesis.
5 paragraphs.
5. About the toxicity of paraffin wax, the release of volatile organic compounds, and how I am actively destroying my respiratory system. Suddenly, I'm defending my life choices against allegations of indoor air pollution.
He brought out the volatile organic compounds. That is intense.
And then, the ultimate chef's kiss of family group chat dysfunction occurs. Right in the middle of this intense, scientifically inaccurate debate about my lungs. My aunt replies.
The asynchronous elder response.
Yes. She replies to a message from an entirely different conversation that happened 3 days ago.
Classic.
Right after my uncle types "P.A. Stales will kill you," she just drops a standalone text that says, "Yes, the potato salad was lovely, Barbara."
The delayed, completely out of context aunt response is a structural pillar of the family group chat. These digital spaces are inescapable traps of miscommunication. They are environments where context goes to die.
They truly are. The psychological damage of a group chat is immense. But babes, enough about our alternate careers, TMZ coworkers, scent wars, and family group chat investigations. Let's get into Project Runway, where at least the fashion drama comes with better lighting.
A deeply necessary pivot, because this week's episode was structurally unhinged.
It really was.
We are at episode 7, heavily billed as the Battle of the Seasons, and the setup alone is a masterclass in psychological manipulation by the producer.
Oh, they knew exactly what they were doing.
We have 7 designers remaining from the current season, season 22. They are bonded, they are exhausted, and they think they understand the rhythm of the competition. But they aren't just competing against each other today. The door is open, and in walk 6 returning all-star designers from season 21, House 22 versus House 21.
The sheer terror on the faces of the season 22 cast when those doors opened. The blood genuinely drained from their bodies. You could visibly watch their souls leave the room. It was magnificent television.
The stakes injected into this challenge were wildly disproportionate to a standard episode. The challenge itself is a staple, right? The Unconventional Materials Showdown.
Always a fan favorite.
But the location is an enormous tech recycling warehouse. We were talking mountains of discarded, obsolete hardware, keyboards, cracked motherboards, tangled Christmas lights, shattered iPod screens, miles of cassette tape ribbons.
The smell of that room must have been pure dust and ozone.
The individual designer who wins gets $20,000 in cash. But the brutal catch is the team mechanic.
Here is where it gets evil.
Exactly. If House 22 wins the overall cumulative score, every single designer in their house is completely safe from elimination. If House 21 wins the overall score, someone from House 22 is immediately sent home.
It transforms an individual art competition into a high-stakes blood sport. And the person who suffered the most profound psychological warfare from this setup was Joseph McRae.
Oh, Joseph!
I have to talk about Joseph because my heart was literally aching for him. Joseph is a highly talented designer who originally competed on season 21, but he returned to compete on the current season 22.
Right, he crossed enemy lines, essentially.
In the previous episode, his current season 22 teammates openly, publicly voted him the weakest designer in their house, and to pour salt in the wound. The challenge that got him eliminated during his original season 21 run was an unconventional materials challenge.
The layered, intersecting trauma is palpable. He is facing the ghost of his past failure, combined with the active rejection of his current peers.
It is the ultimate nightmare scenario. Seeing him walk into that dusty, imposing tech warehouse, making eye contact with his former season 21 castmates who originally voted him off, while standing next to his current season 22 castmates who just called him weak on national television.
It is a lot to process.
I was trying to find an analogy for this level of stress. It is the emotional equivalent of dragging yourself to a party in your oldest, most heavily stained sweatpants and walking through the door only to immediately run into your toxic ex, their incredibly attractive new partner, your high school bully, and the boss who just fired you, all standing in a circle staring at you.
It is a devastatingly accurate analogy. And how does Joseph react? He initiates a complete lockdown.
He really does.
From a game theory perspective, when you are deemed the outcast of a group project, you have 2 choices. You either overcompensate by aggressively trying to lead and prove your worth, or you withdraw entirely to protect your energy and avoid further scrutiny.
And he just built a wall.
Joseph chooses the latter. He immediately isolates himself in the furthest corner of the workroom. He pulls away, he refuses to brainstorm or sketch with House 22, and he completely shuts down communication. Socially, it's a dangerous move because it alienates him further. But emotionally, you completely understand why he's building a fortress around his workstation.
I just wanted to jump through the screen and give him a hug. But while Joseph is busy building emotional walls, House 21 is out for blood.
They were feral.
The scavenging phase of an unconventional materials challenge is always chaotic, but this was next level. They had 10 minutes to grab materials from the warehouse bins. House 21 descended upon those electronics like a plague of locusts. They were ruthless. They took everything of value. By the time House 22 got their bearings, they were basically left holding 3 neon zip ties, a shattered space bar, and a tangled mouse cord.
And that engineered scarcity immediately breeds paranoia in the workroom, which introduces us to the true agents of chaos this episode, the Season 21 twins, Jesus and Antonio.
Oh my gosh, these two.
They arrive in this workroom, and it becomes abundantly clear they don't just want to design garments, they want to wage psychological warfare.
They were acting like producers.
They want to start rumors. It was masterful reality TV instigation. Instead of focusing on their own mannequins, they immediately start wandering around House 22's tables, pointing fingers, examining construction techniques, and loudly accusing the current cast of intellectual property theft.
The absolute audacity to walk into someone else's space and start yelling about stolen ideas when everyone is just trying to glue computer fans to a corset.
Antonio marches over and claims that Jeffrey is blatantly ripping off his signature sheer zip tie aesthetic. Simultaneously, Jesus accuses Bryan of stealing his specific wire braiding technique.
Which is insane.
Now, if we look at this analytically and connect it to the bigger picture of fashion history, fashion is an entirely iterative medium. Almost nothing is completely original. Everything is a reference or a reinvention of a prior technique.
Right.
But in the pressure cooker of a reality TV workroom, where sleep is scarce and adrenaline is high, an accusation of copying is a nuclear bomb. It shatters any remaining trust.
It was so incredibly messy. And right in the middle of all this intense, sweaty, bleeding finger drama, where people are literally snapping rigid plastic with pliers, we get these wildly disjointed, bizarrely timed cameos.
Bizarre is the word.
Suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, mega influencer Nara Smith is just present in the warehouse.
The tonal whiplash of her entrance was severe. You have designers covered in metallic spray paint and industrial adhesive, and then Nara glides in.
She drops in fully glam, hair and makeup completely flawless, to cook this beautiful, elaborate gourmet meal for the designers. But here's the detail that absolutely sent me.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
She is on camera serving this gorgeous artisanal food, mingling in this dusty, hazardous tech warehouse, and she does not consume a single bite of it on camera. Not one morsel passes her lips.
Not a crumb.
It was the most hilarious, classic distillation of influencer behavior I have ever witnessed. It is the pure aesthetic of providing without the reality of participating.
It is entirely about the curation of an image. And shortly after, fashion critic Nikki Campbell wanders in to provide some cutting, high-level commentary on garments made of garbage.
Yeah, as you do.
But honestly, my biggest takeaway from these glamorous drop-ins is a serious logistical question about the show's production budget this season.
Tell me about it.
Let's look at the trajectory. Earlier this season, we had an entire challenge explicitly sponsored by a paper towel company, where the designers had to make couture out of absorbent paper. Now we are quite literally dumpster diving in a recycling center where the materials are legally classified as electronic waste and acquired for free. I have to ask, are they running out of the mood designer fabrics budget?
They absolutely must be. The budget is in shambles. But honestly, I am entirely here for it. Unconventional materials challenges are the lifeblood of this franchise because they strip away the safety net of beautiful silk and chiffon.
They do.
You can't hide behind a gorgeous textile. You actually have to engineer a garment. But, as we know, this engineering requirement also leads to absolute, unforgivable fashion crimes. Which brings us to the most enraging, blood pressure spiking part of this entire episode. The Copycat Chronicles and the absolute disaster that was the duct tape incident.
We need to analytically dismantle Bryan Barrientos right now because his behavior this week was a masterclass in exploiting a game mechanic at the expense of human decency.
Drag him.
Let's establish the context. Bryan won immunity last week for creating a stunning dress that Heidi Klum actually wore to the movie premiere of The Devil Wears Prada 2. Because he holds immunity, the rules explicitly state he cannot be eliminated this week regardless of how poorly he performs.
And he abused that power so blatantly. He put absolute zero effort into this team challenge. Zero. Every other designer in House 22 is fighting for their literal lives, sweating over sewing machines and hot glue guns, because they know if their team loses the overall score, one of them is going home. And what is Bryan doing? He is casually, almost lazily cobbling together what can only be described as a heavy, messy, chaotic wire cocoon, awkwardly layered with literal bubble wrap.
Christian Siriano, who is an impeccable mentor, rightfully called him out during the workroom walkthrough. Christian looked at this mess of shipping supplies and said, "This is a tech challenge, and you aren't using tech, you're using packing supplies."
It was so embarrassing.
It was cowardly designing. He didn't want to engage with the difficult motherboards or the sharp plastics, so he took the easy way out. But the construction itself, it wasn't just an aesthetic failure, it was structurally dangerous.
I completely spiraled watching this fitting. His poor model, Lyris. Lyris is a gorgeous, iconic, professional plus-size model who knows how to walk a runway. And Bryan is forcing her body into this jagged, heavy, unlined metal wire cage.
The visual was disturbing.
You could see she was in visible, physical pain. Wire, when it isn't properly buffered or boned into a garment, digs directly into the skin. It pinches, it scratches. I am dead serious. The models on this episode needed union-mandated hazard pay. They needed a team of medics on standby with fresh tetanus shots. It was a literal safety hazard.
And because his initial construction lacked any foundational integrity, like there was no muslin base, no proper structural support, the heavy wire and bubble wrap started falling apart under its own weight mere moments before the runway show began, which leads directly to the crime of the century.
The tape. I stood up in my living room and screamed at my television screen.
It was a shocking choice.
His dress is rapidly disintegrating in the fitting room. So what does this designer do? Does he grab some heavy-duty thread? Does he try to wire it together? No. He grabs a massive industrial roll of clear plastic packing tape, and he starts wrapping Lyris in it.
Horrifying.
Over her shoulders, under her arms, tightly around her waist, over and over, taping her into this plastic bubble wrap bag like she is a rotisserie chicken being prepped for the deli counter.
It was profoundly degrading to watch. The use of packing tape in that manner is fundamentally anti-fashion. Packing tape does not stretch, it does not breathe, and it violently restricts human movement. The human rib cage needs to expand to draw breath, and he is mummifying her in non-porous plastic.
It is so gross.
Furthermore, under the intense hot lights of a runway stage, packing tape immediately fogs up with condensation from the skin and reflects light in the cheapest, harshest way imaginable. It is an abomination.
I want to push back on the entire structural concept of reality TV immunity right here. I firmly, passionately believe that immunity should legally be revoked by the producers if you tape a human being into a plastic bag against her will.
I don't disagree.
There has to be a line drawn in the sand. You cannot commit aggravated assault on a model with office supplies, create a breathing hazard, and get a free pass just because you made a nice dress last week.
It raises a highly valid philosophical point about the rules of reality competition. Immunity traditionally protects a contestant from elimination based on subjective taste. Like, if the judges think your dress is ugly, you're saved. But should immunity protect you from elimination based on reckless endangerment and a failure to provide a safe working environment for the talent?
Exactly.
But the most tragic irony of Bryan's spectacular failure is how his selfishness directly impacted his teammate, Jeffrey.
Oh, poor sweet Jeffrey. The collateral damage.
Let's detail Jeffrey's struggle, because the narrative arc is practically Shakespearean. Jeffrey initially conceptualizes and begins constructing this silver foil mylar dress. It has potential, but during the walkthrough, Christian Siriano gives him a very sharp, very accurate warning. He tells Jeffrey that the silver mylar reads to drag queen.
Which is the kiss of death on this show.
Now, in fashion critique, calling something drag usually means it relies heavily on high camp, stiff, reflective materials rather than subtle, elevated textile manipulation. It reads as a costume, not couture. Hearing this, Jeffrey bravely scraps the entire concept and has to pivot entirely with half the time remaining. He lands on a sheer, intricate zip tie and wire look.
Which is already a massive, nearly impossible risk to take on a tight timeline. Weaving zip ties requires securing hundreds of individual plastic anchors.
Exactly. It is highly labor-intensive. But Jeffrey, to his own detriment, doesn't just focus on his own sinking ship. He simultaneously acts as the only functional, empathetic team leader for House 22.
Bless him.
While his own complex garment is unfinished, he is running around the workroom checking on everyone else's mental state, trying to unify this completely fractured group. And most egregiously, he actually spends a significant amount of his own precious dwindling time helping Bryan spray paint his tape together bubble wrap disaster.
It is the ultimate tragedy. Jeffrey is the consummate team player. He is actively sacrificing his own time, his own energy, and the quality of his own garment to save Bryan, the guy with immunity who couldn't care less if the team sinks or swims.
It is agonizing to watch.
And what is the result? Jeffrey spends all this time playing savior, which ends up completely tanking the execution of his own garment. The zip ties aren't finished, the fit is off. It is heartbreaking to watch a good person fail because they were busy helping a bad one.
It is the classic, agonizing group project dilemma playing out in real time. The highly competent, anxious person does all the heavy lifting to ensure the team doesn't fail, while the immune slacker coasts on their coattails. Consequently, the competent person's individual performance suffers immensely.
So unfair.
But let's take a deep breath and transition from the psychological tragedy in the workroom to the actual runway presentation. Because despite the overwhelming chaos, the tape, and the tears, we actually witnessed some moments of absolute jaw-dropping brilliance. Let's crown our MVPs.
Yes. Okay. My absolute runway MVP, the most creative designer of the night, the person I would hire to run a fashion house tomorrow morning, is B-Fam from season 22.
An immaculate, undeniable performance.
It was a true jaw-dropping moment. When his model turned the corner, the entire room shifted. He sent down a matte black fitted cocktail dress, completely covered in computer keyboard keys.
It sounds clunky, but it wasn't.
Right, because here's the genius part. It wasn't stiff or boxy. He understood construction. He built a flawless structural base using heavy interfacing and hidden ropes, creating an internal corset that snatched the model's waist perfectly.
Right.
And then he meticulously, individually glued thousands of black keys onto the bodice in a staggered pattern, so it didn't look like a keyboard anymore. It literally looked like heavily textured, exotic crocodile skin.
The textural illusion he achieved was masterful. He took rigid, clunky plastic and manipulated it until it read as a luxury organic textile from 10 feet away.
And the details were staggering. He crafted this gorgeous, fluttering ruffle hem entirely out of tightly clustered black zip ties, making them look like delicate marabou feathers bouncing as the model walked.
Brilliant.
And the absolute ultimate cherry on top. He hid a tiny, cheeky message embedded in the specific keyboard letters placed right along the neckline that spelled out, "Bitch, please."
Whoa!
It was subtle, it was high fashion, it was flawlessly executed.
It was the literal definition of ready-to-wear avant-garde. You could put that dress in a high-end editorial spread tomorrow. But I have to allocate massive credit to Joseph McRae.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about the mechanics of redemption. After being voted the weakest by his peers, after hiding in the corner battling his own demons, he emerges and delivers a piece of absolute high art. He constructed an oversized, highly structural coat woven entirely out of tangled Christmas lights.
I was so terrified when I saw the lights in the workroom. I thought it was going to look like a tacky holiday sweater, but it didn't.
Not at all. Weaving glass bulbs without shattering them requires immense spatial awareness and engineering. He created a garment with massive sweeping volume and had a dramatic high-standing collar, and he anchored the entire look by pairing it with these heavy architectural platform boots, heavily encrusted in cracked, jagged green motherboards.
They were so cool.
Was it heavy? Yes. But it was completely fashion-forward. The model looked like a cyber-dystopian warrior queen. It was a massive, undeniable statement piece that instantly silenced everyone who called him weak.
I was cheering for him on my couch. And then, stepping over to the season 21 side, my jaw hit the floor for Yuchen Han. I was screaming at the TV. He sent down this couture motherboard jacket and skirt combination that looked like it belonged in a museum.
The precision of his cutting and joining was unbelievable. Motherboards do not bend, they shatter. He had to score and snap them perfectly to fit the curve of a human body.
It was a total gorgeous homage to Daniel Roseberry's current era at the House of Schiaparelli. It had that surrealist aesthetic, a highly structured, rigid, exaggerated shoulder line, a sweeping metallic headpiece, and those matching motherboard boots. It was giving Avatar Zulu Queen Warrior vibes.
Yeah.
It felt powerful, it felt pristine, and the fact that he conceptualized and executed a genuinely couture-level garment in less than 20 hours out of literal electronic garbage is nothing short of genius.
Those three designers provided the undeniable triumphs of the evening. But a runway show is a bell curve, and we must now discuss what I like to categorize as the confusing and the middle of the pack. Let's debate Anna from season 22.
Oh, Anna, the self-proclaimed queen of unconventional materials who always promises the moon.
Exactly. She created a crop top and a matching miniature purse out of shiny brown cassette tape film. Now, I will give credit where credit is due from a purely technical standpoint. The top was incredibly well tailored over a structured muslin base, and she managed to install an impeccable exposed metal zipper straight down the back.
Which is hard.
Sewing a metal zipper into slippery, non-porous tape film without the needle perforating and tearing the plastic is a technical marvel. The tension on her sewing machine had to be calibrated perfectly.
A top was stunning, and the little cassette purse was adorable and highly marketable.
But we have to address the bottom half of the silhouette. She paired this brilliant, highly textured, complex top with a completely confusing, disjointed, flat vinyl skirt. It looked exactly like a cheap, stiff shower curtain.
It really did.
Vinyl does not drape elegantly. It crinkles and folds sharply. It cut the model off at an awkward length. It completely clashed with the delicate texture of the cassette tape, and it felt incredibly rushed, as if she simply ran out of time and quickly wrapped a sheet of plastic around her waist to meet the deadline. It dragged a potentially winning look straight into the middle of the pack.
It was a total missed opportunity for greatness. And speaking of the middle of the pack, I have a confession to make. I have to begrudgingly admit something very painful about Jesus from season 21.
Oh, the instigator twin?
Yes.
This should be good.
Yes. Look, the twins' personalities are utterly exhausting. They're leaning so hard into being the reality TV villains, and they know exactly what they're doing for camera time. But Jesus sent down a braided wire halter cage dress that was, unfortunately, really, really good.
The geometry of it was meticulous.
It really was. The way he braided that wire required immense finger strength. He created this rigid architectural cage that sat perfectly over the model's hips, emphasizing her shape, and then the wire seamlessly cascaded down into a fluid fringe.
I have to admit, it was successful.
It was exceptionally well constructed, it actually moved beautifully when she walked, and it fit the model's proportions perfectly. I hate giving him any credit because his workroom behavior is so incredibly annoying, but the talent is undeniably present.
It is a vital exercise in critique to separate the art from the artist's behavior in the workroom. But unfortunately, we cannot separate the art from the disaster when it comes to our tragic fiascos. It is time to talk about the biggest fashion crimes of the night.
Bring out the crown. Give Bryan the crown for worst look and biggest fashion crime in the entire history of the Project Runway franchise.
It is highly likely the worst, most structurally offensive garment ever sent down that runway. Let's analyze the sheer scale of the failure. We extensively detailed the packing tape incident earlier, but we didn't mention the agonizing aftermath.
Oh my God, the judging panel part.
The final outfit was so heavy, so physically restrictive, and so utterly miserable for the model to wear that she couldn't even stand in it for the extended judging panel critiques.
They literally had to take the garment off her body, let her stand in a slip, and use a photograph on a monitor for the judges to critique. A photograph. If your garment requires your model to physically tap out for medical reasons, you have failed at the absolute fundamental concept of making human clothing.
It ceased to be fashion and actively became an instrument of torture. It was an absolute fiasco of design, execution, and empathy.
And amazingly, he wasn't the only one committing crimes against aesthetics. Ethan from season 21, what in the world was that?
I categorize Ethan's entire look as deeply confusing and historically inaccurate. He attempted to create a massive Elizabethan neck ruff entirely out of stacked computer cooling fans.
Which, if we are being honest, conceptually sounds kind of cool on paper.
Conceptually, a rigid, tech-based ruff has potential. Execution-wise, it was a disaster. The historical Elizabethan ruff from the 16th century was a symbol of wealth that required meticulous starching and folding. Ethan paired this futuristic Renaissance fan collar with a completely plain, oddly fitting, stretchy bodysuit, and then, for reasons completely unknown to anyone, added a bulky prosthetic robot arm.
The robot arm.
The look didn't know what decade, what planet, or what genre of fiction it belonged in. It was a chaotic, unedited mishmash of sci-fi tropes.
It was giving bad 1980s B-movie alien extra who got lost on the way to the set. And finally, we must discuss Joan from season 21. I have to tear this apart because it offended my eyes. She took these thick, heavy wire circles and placed them incredibly awkwardly right over the model's bust, attempting to mimic some kind of bizarre metallic anatomy.
It was incredibly unflattering to the female form. Modifying human proportions is a staple of avant-garde fashion, but you have to understand the body to modify it successfully.
Exactly. And then, to make matters worse, she attached these cheap, shiny, crumpled plastic ruffles everywhere else. It looked excessively heavy, it visually widened the model's proportions in all the wrong places, and it completely lacked the baseline elegance you need to make garbage look chic. It was just It was tacky.
Tacky is the exact clinical diagnosis, which brings us perfectly to the judging court. The panel this week was heavily stacked with industry heavyweights. We had Nina Garcia, the notoriously tough Law Roach, and the absolute legendary supermodel Iman. And their reactions to the runway were incredibly wildly polarized.
They were feeling every single emotion on the spectrum. Let's talk about the effusive praise first, because it was beautiful to witness. Law Roach, who is famously impossible to please and suffers no fools, looked at Baibyun's keyboard dress, paused, and literally said, "If I was a lesbian, I'd be falling in love with you."
That is the highest possible compliment Law Roach can physically bestow upon a human being.
The highest. And then Eben, an absolute icon who has walked for every major house in fashion history, was practically in tears looking at B's craftsmanship. She looked at him and said, "AI, eat your heart out. This is what the human touch does."
A phenomenal quote.
I got full-body chills. It was such a profound, timely statement about craftsmanship in an era where the entire creative industry is terrified of computers taking over art. B took the literal instrument of a computer, a keyboard, smashed it to pieces, and used human hands to make breathtaking art out of it.
It was a deeply triumphant moment for B, and a philosophical victory for human artistry. But the pendulum swung violently hard in the other direction for the designers of House 22. Law Roach did not hold back a single ounce of venom when he addressed Jeffrey's zip-tie look. He looked Jeffrey dead in the eye and brutally, unequivocally called the garment trash.
I was genuinely stunned. My jaw dropped. Trash. It is such a heavy word to hurl at an artist on that stage.
It was incredibly harsh. But this raises a vital question regarding the fairness of reality competition judging. Did the panel go too hard on Jeffrey?
I think they did.
Because we, the audience, exist outside the judging bubble. We saw the tape. We know that Jeffrey sacrificed his own limited design time to lead a fractured team and literally used his own hands to help Bryan construct his bubble wrap disaster. Meanwhile, the judges are eviscerating Jeffrey's incomplete work while Bryan gets to stand silently next to him, hiding safely behind his immunity shield.
It is infuriating to watch. The judges don't see the workroom dynamics. They only evaluate the final product on the runway. They don't know that Jeffrey's the only reason half that team even had garments to present. I think they went way too hard on him, especially considering the absolute infuriating betrayal that happens next.
Ah, yes. The backstage blow-up,
Yeah.
the moment the facade crumbled.
Babes, my blood pressure spiked to dangerous levels. We have to recap the audacity of this moment. Bryan stands in front of Nina Garcia, Law Roach, and Iman, and he blatantly, confidently lies to their faces. The judges ask him about the construction of his heavy, jagged, messy dress, and Bryan looks them in the eye and claims, "It's all by hand, completely by hand, knotted by hand."
An egregious, staggering omission of the packing tape reality that held the entire garment together.
Conveniently omitting the fact that he taped the model into a plastic tube. He stands on that prestigious runway, acting like he is weaving a delicate couture basket in a Parisian atelier. And the rest of his team is standing right next to him under the hot lights, biting their tongues so hard they are practically bleeding because they know they cannot throw him under the bus without risking the judges turning on the whole team.
The tension on the runway was thick, but the moment they get off that stage and retreat into the backstage stew room, the dam completely breaks. House 22 entirely implodes.
It was explosive. Jeffrey, the team player, finally snaps. He confronts Bryan directly, face to face. He asks him point blank, "Why didn't you tell them about the tape? Why are you lying to the judges about how this is constructed?" And Bryan's reaction is deeply concerning.
It is a masterclass in narcissistic deflection. Bryan completely refuses to take accountability for his design failure or his lie. Instead of admitting he panicked and used tape, he attacks Jeffrey's character. He loudly accuses Jeffrey of committing character assassination.
Character assassination. You taped a woman into a dress, Bryan. Stating a factual event that occurred on camera is not character assassination.
And then Bryan completely devolves into a state of profound delusion regarding his own talent level. He starts aggressively bragging about his fashion pedigree to the room, literally shouting, "I studied at Ecole Lesage in Paris. I am bringing haute couture to this runway."
I was crying laughing at that.
Now, for context, Ecole Lesage is the legendary embroidery house owned by Chanel. It requires thousands of hours to master tambour beating and silk thread work. For Bryan to invoke the sacred name of Lesage while defending a dress made of wire, bubble wrap, and packing tape is an absolute insult to the métier of haute couture.
I wanted to scream at the television, "You are bringing duct tape and a safety violation to the runway, Bryan.
Yeah.
You are not Coco Chanel."
What's truly fascinating and deeply upsetting is the sickening reality facing House 22 in that stew room as the fight continues. The game theory math is brutal. Because Bryan possesses immunity, his zero-effort, hazardous garbage dress might be the heavy anchor that drags the entire team's cumulative score down.
Yep, the math doesn't lie.
If House 22 loses the challenge overall, Bryan is safe regardless, which means a talented, hardworking, team-oriented designer, highly likely to be Jeffrey, who received the harshest critiques, will be eliminated instead of the guy who actually deserves to go home.
It is a profound injustice. It genuinely makes my stomach turn. Jeffrey could be sent packing simply because he tried to help a narcissist who abused his immunity privilege.
And just as that tension in the stew room reaches an absolute, unbearable boiling point, just as they are called back to the runway, just as Heidi Klum steps up to the microphone to announce which house won the battle of the seasons.
The unforgivable cliffhanger. I threw a throw pillow across my living room. The episode literally cuts to black. Roll credits. We get absolutely nothing. We don't know which house won. We don't know who goes home. We don't know if Jeffrey is safe. It is criminal, manipulative editing.
It is highly manipulative, but from a production standpoint, it is incredibly effective. We are absolutely guaranteed to tune next week. But since we are left in the dark for the next 7 days, let's break down our analytical predictions. Let's look at the trajectory of these designers. Who is improving, who is in imminent danger, and who is primed for the next major meltdown.
Okay, regarding who is improving, I am in complete agreement with the judges. Bye, fam. He is quietly, methodically, brilliantly slaying this competition. He doesn't get involved in the stew room screaming matches. He doesn't spread rumors. He just puts his head down and delivers immaculate, perfectly tailored garments.
His focus is unmatched.
He proved he can handle delicate fabric in week 2, and now he's proved he can handle rigid plastic keys in week 7. He is establishing a clear front-runner narrative.
I completely agree. Bai is ascending. As for who's in danger, unfortunately, all statistical signs point to Jeffrey. If House 22 loses the cumulative score, the judges made it very clear they despised his zip-tie look. He is squarely on the chopping block alongside Bryan. But Bryan has the golden ticket of immunity. Jeffrey is highly, highly vulnerable.
I am so scared for him. And as for the next meltdown, it has to be Bryan. The group project dynamic in House 22 is permanently shattered. The rest of his house actively, openly dislikes him now. You cannot survive in that high-pressure workroom when everyone knows you are selfish, delusional, and completely willing to let them get eliminated for your own lazy mistakes. He is going to crack under the social isolation.
I would normally agree with that assessment, but I am going to offer a completely ridiculous yet theoretically possible prediction based on reality TV history.
Okay, I am ready. Hit me with the theory.
I predict that production steps in and breaks the fourth wall. We have seen reality shows bend or rewrite their own rules when a contestant crosses a severe line. I predict that the network lawyers or the executive producers review the runway footage, see Lyris in actual physical pain from the unlined wire, and decide to completely break the established game mechanics.
Oh my God, wait.
I predict they step onto the runway, formally revoke Bryan's immunity for creating a severe safety hazard for the talent, and eliminate him anyway.
A girl can dream. If they actually strip him of his immunity on the main stage, I will throw a parade in my living room.
Oh.
That would be the most iconic, satisfying reality TV moment of the decade.
It would certainly solve the Jeffrey dilemma and restore a sense of justice to the competition.
All right, Snark Squad. We have unpacked the trauma, the tape, and the tragedy of this episode. And now we need your official rulings in the group chat.
We await your data and your hot takes.
First, I need to know, if you had to surrender your current career and start completely over today, what delusional, glamorous, low-effort job are you picking? Second, I need you to formally declare a side in the great debate so I can prove a point. Are you Team Glade plug-in or Team Candle? Choose wisely. And finally, does every single workplace secretly have a TMZ coworker, or is it just the dental industry? Let us know. Stay stylish, stay shady, and we'll see you on the Snark side.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to simmer on until next week. Think about the actual binding legal contracts these reality contestants and models sign before filming begins. If a designer creates a garment that requires a medic on standby and poses a literal physical danger to the human being wearing it, does the network's legal liability clause supersede the show's fabricated immunity game mechanics? Next time you watch an unconventional materials challenge, ask yourself, where exactly is the line drawn between avant-garde fashion and a legitimate OSHA violation?